You got a few weeks left in the year. You got a few weeks left in the decade. And you know, I don't think anybody here, I didn't. I worked really hard, and there's still a lot of things I could have done in this decade that I got to do better in the next one, you know? Did anybody here do everything you could this decade to make your life as good as it could fucking be?
No.
Yeah. And you know, it is a good poignant moment to think about that. Is like, you got a couple weeks left in the whole, how many decades you get in your whole lifetime? You only get a few. You don't get dozens. You probably don't get 1 dozen. You probably don't get 1 dozen. Very unlikely. So, you know, in your first couple decades, what do you spend your life doing your first couple decades? Your first decade, you're trying to figure out like how not to shit in your pants, how to stop pissing in yourself. It's not even an insult, it's true for all of us, you know. Your first decade, you're figuring out some fundamental things like don't burn my hand, you know, don't fuck around with knives. That shit hurts. Stop shitting in my pants. You know, maybe you learn how to read or write. Half of the fucking Americans don't even learn how to do math. Can't do math. Lucky they can spell something. So you got a couple decades that really count. You got a couple decades that you're going to have a robust life, but you know, a lot of people, they ain't going to do much. Half the people here, you are the most dedicated people in this area, and you still half of you ain't going to do much. And the one who's offended by it, that's the one who's not going to do much. Because the few that are serious to go do something wouldn't be offended by me saying something like that. They'd be like, oh, that's not me. I'm going to go do something. I'm doing good already. I'm going to do even better in the future. And you got to know who are the people that you want to meet, who are the people that you want to be around. And to know that, you have to know the front end of that is, you know, what kind of man am I? What kind of life do I want to live? You ask yourself those questions, obviously. What kind of man are you? What kind of life do you want to live? Who would be the best companions for your life, given the type of person you are and the sort of lifestyle you want to live? And you got to go find those people. And you got to go do it proactively. And if you just mope around and if you just do what normal people do, when I say mope around, I don't mean a depressed person. If you just act like a 50th percentile person, you'd have about a 50th percentile outcome, wouldn't you? If you engage in normal behaviors, you'd have a normal outcome.
Sure.
So if you want to have an exceptional outcome, you're going to have to engage in some exceptional behaviors. So, you know, if I limited my social circle, it's not at all an exaggeration to say that I have a global social network of some really high-performing people. And if I would have limited my social circle as a kid, as a dumbass kid around a bunch of other dumbass losers, if I would have just stuck around those people, because there's a lot of people, man, even in big cities, that, you know, they're hanging out with the kids from their neighborhood. They're still hanging out with people they grew up with. And they never really ventured out there and engaged in, you know, found the best people. Found the people that would be, you know, most able to contribute to their lives and vice versa. So, you know, it should be clear, what is that value proposition? Not in a mechanical way, but in a, you know, in something of an emotional way, or, you know, I hesitate to say a spiritual way. I don't mean that with any woo-woo or God involved, but the part of your brain, the part of a logical, reasonable person's brain who might be thinking about your higher purpose or spirituality of sorts. Man, you know, what the fuck should that be except finding other high-quality people to go live your life with? What should that be except being a high-quality person yourself, so you could be accepted by the groups of people that you perceive as high quality and that you'd want to spend time with? And like, you know, that's kind of what I just said with him, is, you know, that meditative practice, if you will, of being clear about who you are and what you want and who you're supposed to spend time with and who you're supposed to stay far away from. That's changed your life, man. That'll change your life really quick. And, you know, the people I grew up with, it didn't turn out good for them. It turned out real bad, real bad. And, you know, like my 6 closest friends from childhood, like 3 of them are dead now. One's doing 30 years, one's doing life. And real life, not life means 20 years, no, like life, like real life. He will not leave until he reaches room temperature. Till he's deceased and his body reaches room temperature. Maybe they'll let him leave then. So the 6th one, he didn't get away either. He's crippled because he's a dumbass and he was taking drugs and drinking at work, got himself injured with some heavy equipment. So, you know, if I would have kept spending time with those 6 people, what do you suppose my life would look like? It's got to be. It'd be foolish to think otherwise, you know? It'd be foolish. Like, only a real fool would think that that's not true, you know? So you got to make a conscious decision to distance yourself from people that aren't contributing. You got to be a good contributor yourself. but you got to make a conscious decision to distance yourself from people who aren't contributing, people that aren't serious, people that aren't in on your mission. I don't waste time with the wrong ones. You've been around me, you've been in a couple programs with me. You see me in various contexts, and I don't have that mental illness where I feel like I need to get along with everybody. That really helps a lot. You've heard me talk about this in different contexts, but it is the answer to this type of a question. I don't have a mental illness where I feel like I need to get along with everybody. I don't believe in all this woo-woo, oh, we're all the same, we're all that, but I'm happy to contribute to the economy, I'm happy to contribute to my community. It's really the only way that you can build anything. It's really the only way you can build anything to yourself is like, well, how can I help other people solve a problem? What could I do for somebody else that they'd be happy to transact with me and help me as well? There's really no other way to, an economy doesn't function without that. Have you studied business at all?
I did not. I dropped out like 3 years ago.
Well, back to Econ 102 maybe, is you have to be able to create a consumer surplus. There has to be, you have to make enough as a producer of something that you have a producer surplus, so you're covering your expenses, plus have some profits or some motivation for continuing to help people. But the consumer surplus, in most cases has to be much more. It has to be much more. Like, I just think, in my head, depending on the context, if I work with somebody, I'd like them to get, triple that. In the aftermath, they would have been happy to pay me 3 times as much. I'd like them to get 5 times the value. And in the aftermath, I'd like them to look at it and be like, you know what? If it costs 3 times as much, I'm happy. I would have been happy to do that. And if you're not thinking about that, what people that are thinking about short term, how do I get money right now, and like my selfish little me and my greedy little me, and right now, it's like they tend to stay poor. They tend to not do too much, and that's really one of the problems. Is just that the temporal discounting, the discounting of time, or that strong bias towards right now versus creating more long-term value. It's a shame. When I was 7, I didn't know the word entrepreneurship. I was 7. I was walking dogs, shoveling snow, raking leaves, cutting the grass, washing cars, polishing tires, any little thing that needed to be done around somebody's house or something. I was all about that, starting at age 7. By 10, maybe 11, I think I was 10, I had 4 paper routes. I had at least 3 paper routes when I was 10. I think I had 4 when I was 10, but I might have turned 11 by then. I had 4 paper routes. I didn't do any of them. I had other kids in the neighborhood that would go do the paper routes, and I'd keep 25% of the money. I got paid for 1 paper route. I did no paper routes, and other people did the paper routes. I was a kid, and I was thinking, and I say you because someone that comes from a country where there's, you don't have all these luxuries of, like here in the United States. People are very ungrateful for the luxuries we have, You would understand that type of thing. If you didn't do it yourself, you would understand of like, looking for opportunities. How do I help somebody and earn a little extra money? How do I help somebody and earn a little extra money? So, I thought about entrepreneurship before I knew the word, long before I knew the word. Now, other people later, they heard the idea about entrepreneurship. They, oh, I don't want a job. I'll just go do, it'd just be easy. You just get paid a lot of money and do whatever you want. Is that how it is? You just make a lot of money and do whatever you want? No, an entrepreneur is a poor bastard. When I see a guy that looks too happy, and he's talking to me about, we see a guy that says he's running a business and he looks too happy. He's smiling and say, hey man, how things going in your business? Oh, everything's great. Everything's great. He's smiling and he's energetic and he looks well rested. I know he's getting close to bankruptcy. I know things are going real bad. When a guy's too happy, when he says he's running a business and he looks too happy, he looks like he's been sleeping too much and he's happy and says, oh, everything's perfect. No, that's like some Silicon Valley talk, which means, he's going to be bankrupt soon, and he might not understand the numbers, but that's what's going to happen soon. It's bad. So the real entrepreneurs, you see that they're sharp, their eyes are alert, they're present, they're focused on something, they value their time, they look a bit exhausted, they look a little grumpy and weather beaten. Like that's what an entrepreneur is, not some well-rested asshole that's been on vacation too much. Yeah, a lot of people suck at everything. And I was just smart enough and even more so motivated enough that I didn't want to suck at everything. And To me, the three things that every young man should want, regardless. Any young man who doesn't want, social resources, financial resources, education. So, meaning, what does that mean? Better education, go find money, money is just your financial freedom. Money just means the freedom to live your life how you want to. So any young man who's not working on his freedom is going to be a slave. Doesn't matter what color you are. Any young man doesn't work on his freedom, he's going to be a slave. He's going to be working for somebody else. He's going to be doing that much, and that's going to be his life. So I'd have a main project and a secondary project, and and then you can shuffle through those over time, okay? But at your age, a person who thinks he's going to do 10 or 20 or 30 things, he's going to do exactly 0. He's going to do nothing. Now, at your age, if you're thinking now you might go do 10 things over time. You might go learn 10 skill sets at a high level, over time. And you got a lot of years left at 17. So if you don't waste them while you're 17, 18, 19, 20, so on, if you don't waste them, you might do exceptional over time. Do phenomenal. Things you can't imagine right now. Things that are so dope you can't imagine right now. You can't imagine yourself doing it. And it's just those little things every day, those little practices every day. Like Michael Phelps, he won 20-something fucking medals, fantastic swimmer, legendary swimmer. But he didn't do that, no, he did that. I see an interview with him, he said other people are going to the pool 6 days a week, oftentimes 2 sessions per day. So they're having 12 training sessions per week. He said he went 7 days a week, 2 times per day. And he said, well, other people were resting. He had 17% more training than they did. And he also got over 20 medals because of that shit. I had a different guy that swam with him that was one of my clients. And he said he would go 13 training sessions per week. He said he would go, he'd wake up about 3 in the morning, and by 3:30 he's in the pool. He'd go have his first training session there. He'd have some breakfast, work on some homework, take his ass to school, get off of school, go have a second training session, have some food, work on his homework, go to sleep so he could be awake at 3 in the morning again. And he said he did that, obviously 5 days a week, but also 2 training sessions on Saturday and 1 on Sunday. And he didn't get a medal. And he was talented enough to be on the U.S. team with Phelps. And he didn't get a medal. So 13 training sessions a week for a decade and a half, doesn't guarantee your spot on the team. And sure doesn't guarantee that you get your medal. But that's just, it's necessary for you to train like that if you want to be a top performer. It doesn't guarantee shit. Somebody else might have done that and they got injured instead. And they didn't get to go. That's a common thing amongst athletes, But yeah, in any area, man, the more things you allow in, the more diluted it all gets. And you start getting 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 things. You're worried about everybody's opinion. It's gonna be just average. You're gonna have an average outcome. And fuck average. Fuck average. We all have one thing in common here. Everybody here, fucking you, including me more than many of you, is you felt fucking stupid. You knew you could do better. You knew you were supposed to do better. You have a rough vision of what better looks like, and it doesn't seem like it's something otherworldly, but you can't quite fucking figure that shit out by yourself. And that's about the first fucking step on a path to actual success is admitting to yourself, I'm too fucking stupid to figure it out. If you were smart enough to figure it out, you would have done it already. And that's not just you, that's all of us. I think that all the time. When I think about, well, why don't I have a skill set already? Because I'm too fucking stupid. If I was fucking smarter in that area, I'd already be able to get what I want in that area. And the person who wants to think he knows everything, he's really fucked. A person who is smart enough to admit to himself, you know what, if I want great results there, probably I should get help with that. I'm just gonna live long enough to fucking master everything. And when you talk about that calmness or presence or whatnot, it goes back to, well, I know who I am and I know what I want, and I have a purpose and a mission. I know what that is. It's very clear to me. And then I don't get distracted with too many other things, And in terms of the happiness that comes with that presence, or, I'm always a little happy and a little grumpy at the same time. But in terms of the happiness that comes with that is that you just don't have the clutter in your mind or the anxiety causing clutter of, oh, am I supposed to pay attention to that? Maybe I should be nice to everybody. Maybe I should try to get along with everybody. So no, you don't have all that clutter in your head of how you're supposed to be spending your time or who you're supposed to spend it. You already defined that a long time ago. And then maybe you've heard me say this or not, but a real big one for me, I've been doing this almost half my life now, is before I go to bed at night, I'm thinking about what are the 3 most important things I need to do tomorrow. That's a very big exercise. What are the 3 most important things I need to do? And one of them is always about finance. I'm half a Jew. I went to business school twice. So one of them is always about finance. What's the biggest, most important money opportunity for tomorrow? That doesn't mean immediate money. It might mean long-term money. I hope it means long-term money because I care about the order of magnitude more than, I don't need it right now. I don't need it right now, but I know if I do the right things, it'll come, and a lot of it will come. So I'm thinking about that. What's the biggest opportunity that would lead to long-term wealth creation? Okay, so I got to wake up tomorrow and I got to work on that. So who's a friend or a partner or my girlfriend or my somebody, some human that I need to interact with tomorrow that I could help them solve a significant problem that is going to make their life better, and we have an investment in that person. And that's not limited to one person necessarily. I might have to make 2 or 5 phone calls tomorrow, or I might have to go do something for someone. That's fine. But what's the biggest one? Well, I got to go do that for sure. And then the third one is just flexible to me. Is whatever seems important, whatever seems like an important issue at that time. But one is always about a relationship with another human. One is always about money, long-term money. And then whatever seems urgent that feels like it needs to be resolved soon. Let me work on that too. And if you just did those few things, you really have a lot of clarity. Like you know who you are, you know what you want. You're moving through the world with purpose. You wake up, you know what you're supposed to do. I go to sleep thinking about that at night. I wake up. I don't meditate. I'm not against meditation. I don't make fun of meditation, but there's a lot of people meditating that don't do shit. And instead of spending a lot of time meditating, if you just did the little exercise that I just mentioned, you'd be forced to go do shit. You'd be forced to go get done important things. So maybe meditation might be like 90 on my to-do list. If I got to live 1 million years and I did everything else, probably I'd never get around to it actually. Probably something else would be more important. But right now I'll say it's number 90 or 103 or some shit on my to-do list. Or just go get something done, So I think about those things when I'm going to sleep at night. When I wake up for the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I just want to think through, are those my answers from yesterday? Is that still the most important thing? Are there still the 3 things I'm supposed to do? How many of you went to sleep thinking about something and you woke up and you found a better solution? Is that not true for about everybody? The rest of you never thought. You never had a thought, huh? That's unfortunate. If you go to sleep thinking about something deeply and like looking for a solution, you wake up sometimes for a little effort. And we're not talking about woo-woo metaphysics. I don't know the neuroscience behind it, but I know it's a real thing. If you went to sleep thinking about a problem, not in a stressful way, but just like, what's the biggest opportunity tomorrow? What's the other opportunity? What's the other opportunity? You go to sleep and think about that. You wake up, is that still the most important thing? And sometimes there's something else that you're like, oh shit, I could go do this instead, and I should. And then you can go take a leak and take a shower and get on with your day. So that really helps me quite a lot, where I don't allow a lot of clutter and nonsense in my life that other people do. And then I don't have, why would you feel anxious? If you're behaving that way, why would you feel anxious? What would happen to your self-esteem or your entitlement if you were engaging in behaviors like that? And not that you have a self-esteem problem, your self-esteem is just fine, but you get the point that I'm saying. It could only go up. It could only go up. Why wouldn't you feel entitled to get the things that you want in the world if you're engaging in behaviors that other people just wouldn't engage in, and you're contributing to others, you're creating wealth, creating healthier relationships, resolving other little problems in your life instead of ignoring them? And then you don't have an accumulation of problems. You have an abundance of opportunity instead. And those aren't just funny words. Like, think that through. If you behaved that way, instead of having an accumulation of little problems that people ignore and let them pile up, you'd be overwhelmed with the abundance of opportunity in your life. You have so much good shit going on, you don't have time for all of it. You can't pretend to be perfect. Everybody has problems, and everybody really knows everybody else has problems. When I see somebody, the people that pretend to be the most perfect are the biggest frauds. And it's like the smartest people I know, the people that I really respect a lot, high IQ, good friends, good net worth, everything's good. They'd also be people that they had plenty of failures and plenty of foibles, and you know, it wouldn't hurt their ego or hurt their feelings to talk about some of that. So I had plenty of fuck ups. You know, so you only learn things because you fucked something up. A person that doesn't want to, is a person who's scared to fail ever. If you're scared to look stupid, or you're scared to, you know, be wrong, so you're not going to learn much. We all learn things. You know, didn't you burn your hand at least one time before you figured out it was a bad idea to touch hot stuff? Even though your parents told you not to play with knives, didn't you cut yourself at least once before you figured out, oh, maybe they're right about that? So we all learn things because we fuck something up at some times. It's the best teacher. But you know, for some people to continue to fuck up the same thing, is Einstein's definition of insanity is, you know, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. So it's fine. You know, I just don't trust anybody that tries to be too perfect. I just don't. You can't trust them at all. I can't believe anything else they say. But if you're not willing to have some of those vulnerabilities or just honesty about your mistakes or foibles in life, it's very unrelatable, and people know you're full of shit. And you know, but the commonality between people that, the type of people whose lives, you know, elements of their life I wanted to emulate, you know, it looked good to me, that looked like they had a lot of freedom and success, and that looked like they could live their life how they wanted to. It looked like a happy person, you know, near the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you know. I thought, well, what are the commonalities in those people? It's like, oh, well, they value education. The people that valued education had a good work ethic and learned from other people. They had good mentors. Besides just education, they had good mentors. And those few thoughts, which are very rudimentary on one hand, it really changed my way of thinking. And I said to the man in front of you earlier, if you change a couple thoughts in your head, if you modified a couple thoughts, you'd modify a couple behaviors. And if you modified a couple behaviors, and you'd have a different outcome. And if you had better outcomes, you'd have to rethink that of like, you're ready to double down and do more, If you start seeing better outcomes, you're like, oh shit, what else could I do? What else could I do in this area? And you work on that for a moment, and then very quickly you have another thought, well, what else have I been missing out on that if I change some other thought in a different behavior, I'd have better outcomes in some other part of my life too. And you start stacking a few of those together, it makes a whole big difference, Not very long. In months, not years, you have very different life. Months, not years. And over years, it's like unrecognizable,